They fined him $50,000 to tear down the dam that protected his home. A month later, the entire neighborhood was underwater. That's not a headline from a newspaper. That's real life. This story begins in a quiet suburb of North Carolina. Early spring, the kind of place where you can hear lawnmowers humming on Saturday mornings and smell barbecue drifting from backyards on Sundays. Neatly trimmed hedges, vinyl siding in pastel colors. Everything about it screams perfect American neighborhood, but perfection is only skin deep. Behind the whole newsletters and manicured lawns hides a rigid system. And when a black homeowner named Marcus rebuilt something to protect his family, that system came for him hard. It's 6 in the morning. Mist floats over a small man-made creek that snakes behind the backyards on Oakwood Lane. The birds haven't even started singing yet. Marcus, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a faded Carolina Panthers hoodie, stands on his deck sipping coffee from a chipped mug. He's been up since 4. He can hear the water moving faster than usual because of the storms last night. Down below, just beyond his backyard fence, stands the structure he built 2 summers ago. A simple but sturdy stone dam about 4 feet high. Nothing fancy, just enough to slow the creek during heavy rains, to keep the backyard from flooding. He built it himself after watching his basement flood twice in 3 years while the HOA ignored his pleas for help. His wife, Denise, always teased him. "You're like our own Black MacGyver out here." He'd laugh and tell her he wasn't trying to be clever, just trying to protect what was theirs. And it worked. For 2 years, even through hurricanes, his yard stayed dry, their basement stayed clean, and they could finally store Denise's grandmother's quilt chest down there without worrying about mold. But to the hoe, Marcus's dam wasn't a solution. It was a violation. 3 weeks ago, a letter came in the mail. Thick envelope, official letterhead. Notice of violation. He opened it at the kitchen table while Denise was making breakfast. His hands shook as he read the words. The unapproved structure located at the rear of your property constitutes a violation of Article 7, Section 4 of the Oakwood Lane HOA Covenants. You are hereby fined $50,000 in order to remove the structure within 30 days. Denise's spatula clattered against the pan. $50,000? Are they insane? Marcus just stared at the paper. His mind raced. $50,000 wasn't just money. That was their savings. That was his daughter's college fund. That was the security they'd built over years. He tried to tell himself it was a mistake. Maybe a typo. Maybe an extra zero. But when he called the HOA office, the woman on the phone spoke like she was reading from a script. No emotion. No sympathy. "Sir, the fine is valid. You're required to comply." Now, on this misty morning, Marcus watches the water swirl at the edge of his dam. It's running high but not dangerous. His neighbor's yard, 3 houses down, already has standing water. Without the dam, his would look the same. He pulls out his phone and scrolls through his photos. Pictures of the dam's construction, the floods before it, the invoices he sent the HOA begging them to fix the drainage. He's building a record. Evidence. Because something about this feels wrong on a deeper level than just a rule. It's not just about rocks in a creek. It's about the way his white neighbors have been allowed to build gazebos, decks, even full sheds without permission while he's being fined for trying to keep his home dry. He remembers the looks at the last HOA meeting, the whispers when he stood up to speak. He'd felt the weight of being the only black man in the room. He'd felt the way the board president, a retired banker named Gerald Whitman, looked at him like he was out of line just for asking questions. Denise comes out onto the deck, wrapping a robe around her. "You're out here early again," she says softly. "Couldn't sleep," Marcus replies. "You're thinking about the letter every second." She sits beside him. "We'll fight it. We're not just going to roll over." He nods but says nothing. Inside, the weight in his chest feels heavier than the stone dam below. He's been in fights before, but this feels different. This feels like they're trying to break him without even getting their hands dirty. That afternoon, Marcus drives to the HOA office. It's a brick building next to a strip mall. Inside, the air smells like paper and coffee. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead. A receptionist with stiff hair and a frozen smile asks how she can help him. "I'm here about the fine," he says. "I need to speak with someone in charge." After a moment, she leads him to a small conference room where Gerald Whitman is waiting. Gerald is in his late 60s, wearing a navy blazer and a tie even though it's Friday. His silver hair is perfectly combed. He doesn't stand up when Marcus enters. "Mr. Reed," Gerald says. "Sit down." Marcus sits. His hands grip the edge of the table. "This fine. This order. It's outrageous. That dam is protecting my home. Your drainage system failed, and now you're punishing me for fixing it myself." Gerald folds his hands. "The covenants are clear. No unapproved structures on common waterways. It's behind my property. It's still a common waterway." Marcus leans forward. "Then fix the drainage. You've ignored my requests for years." Gerald's lips tighten. "We're not here to debate our infrastructure. You're in violation. Remove it, or we'll escalate." Marcus feels heat rising up his neck. "You're targeting me." Gerald's eyes flash. "I'm enforcing the rules equally." "Really?" Marcus pulls out photos on his phone. Other neighbors' unapproved decks and sheds. "Then why haven't you found them?" Gerald glances at the photos, but doesn't answer. He just repeats, "Remove it, Mr. Reed. You have 20 days left." Back in his truck, Marcus slams the steering wheel. He can smell his own sweat. His heart is hammering. He calls Denise on speakerphone. "They're not budging," he says. "They're going to come after us. Then we fight harder," she says. "We're not tearing it down." He stares at the whole office in the rearview mirror. Something in him hardens. This isn't just about a dam anymore. It's about standing up. That night, rain begins to fall again. Heavy drops against the windows. Marcus lies awake, listening. He imagines what would happen if the dam were gone. Water rushing into his basement, destroying everything. He pictures Gerald Whitman's cold eyes. He pictures the letter. He pictures his daughter coming home from college and finding their home ruined because he obeyed an unjust order. In the dark, he whispers to Denise, "They're not going to break me." She squeezes his hand. "We won't let them." As thunder rumbles outside, Marcus makes a silent promise. He will not tear down the dam. And if the HOA wants a fight, they're going to get one. But he has no idea how far the board is willing to go, or what's about to happen to the entire neighborhood. The storm broke just after midnight. By morning, the sky was a hard gray, and the grass squelched underfoot. Marcus stepped out back in rubber boots and a rain jacket, phone in hand. He filmed everything. The swollen creek, the water pressing against his dam, but staying put. His yard was dry. His neighbor's wasn't. He posted the video to a private Facebook group for Oakwood Lane residents. Caption, "This is why I built the dam. This is what your HOA refuses to fix." Within minutes, the comments started rolling in. Some supportive, some defensive, a few outright hostile. "Marcus, this is not your job. You're endangering downstream properties. This is racism. Plain and simple." He scrolled, jaw tight. The divide was clear. The same people who had whispered about him at meetings were now accusing him of selfishness, of being a rule breaker. But several black families from a newer section of the subdivision messaged privately, offering help. Marcus had never planned to be that guy in the neighborhood, the troublemaker. He'd moved to Oakwood Lane 8 years ago after saving for nearly a decade. He'd wanted a safe place for his daughter, Maya, to grow up. He wanted a piece of the American dream. His own home, a backyard, maybe a grill. He got all that. But he also got the hoe. The first few years were fine. He paid his dues, waved at neighbors, kept his grass cut shorter than the rules required. But then the flooding started. Heavy rains turned the gentle creek behind his yard into a brown, raging stream. Water poured into his basement, destroying old photo albums and Maya's kindergarten art projects. He filed maintenance requests. He got form letters back. He showed up at meetings with photos. He got polite smiles and zero action. When a contractor quoted him $25,000 to install a private retaining wall, he laughed bitterly. Then he spent a summer gathering stone from a quarry an hour away, hauling it in his pickup, laying it one piece at a time. It wasn't pretty at first, but it worked. He thought the home might thank him. Instead, he got silence until the fine. Now, as he scrolled through the Facebook comments, one name caught his eye: Linda Carver. She was a white homeowner 2 streets over, known for her garden club and her frequent emails about neighborhood standards. She'd written, "If this dam fails, it could flood our homes. The HOA is right to enforce the rules." Marcus tapped reply, but stopped himself. He could almost hear his father's voice in his head. "Never argue when they want you angry, son. Keep receipts instead." He closed the app and took a slow breath. He had receipts, photos, dates, letters. He just needed a chance to show them. That chance came faster than expected. At noon, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. "Mr. Reed? This is Officer Kelly with the County Code Enforcement Office. We've received a complaint about an unpermitted structure on your property. I'll need to inspect it this afternoon." Marcus's stomach dropped. "From the HOA? I can't say who filed the complaint, sir. I just have to do the inspection." Marcus agreed to meet him at 3. He hung up and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the wall. Denise came in from her online nursing shift. "What's wrong?" she asked. "They've called code enforcement," he said. "They're escalating." Her face tightened. "We'll be ready." At 3, a white county truck pulled up. Officer Kelly stepped out, a middle-aged man with a clipboard and mud on his boots. Marcus met him at the edge of the yard. Kelly nodded politely. "Mr. Reed, just need to take a look." Marcus led him down the slope to the creek. The dam stood solid, water pooling gently on one side. Birds had returned to perch on the stones. Kelly jotted notes, took a few photos. "Looks like you built this yourself?" he asked. "Yeah. HOA ignored my drainage complaints for years. This is the only thing that works." Kelly scratched his chin. "Well, technically, anything that alters a waterway needs a permit from the county." Marcus's heart sank. "Even on private property? If it's connected to a stream, yes. It can affect downstream flow." Marcus forced his voice steady. "So what now?" Kelly flipped his clipboard. "I'll file a report. It goes to the county board. They'll decide if there's a violation. But I'll be honest, this is more of a civil matter between you and the HOA than a criminal one. Just be prepared." Marcus nodded. "Thanks for telling me." Kelly hesitated. "For what it's worth, it's a nice piece of work. Not many folks these days build anything with their own hands." Then he left. Denise came out as Marcus watched the truck disappear. "What did he say?" she asked. "That we might be violating a county permit rule." "Great." As if the whole fine wasn't enough, Marcus looked at the dam. "They're trying to box me in, make me give up before a hearing." Denise crossed her arms. "They don't know you." That night, Marcus called a lawyer recommended by one of the black families who'd messaged him on Facebook. Her name was Alicia Brown, mid-30s, with a reputation for fighting homeowner association abuse. She picked up on the first ring. "Mr. Reed, I read your email. You've got a case," she said without preamble. "I can't afford a big fight," he said. "They're already threatening $50,000. That's why you document everything." Alicia replied, "We'll start with a cease and desist letter, and if they try to enforce that fine without a hearing, we'll file for an injunction." HOA boards rely on intimidation. Don't give them what they want. Marcus felt a small flicker of hope. "Thank you. Email me every photo and letter you've got," she said. "We'll go from there." 2 days later, Marcus showed up at the monthly HOA meeting in the community center. He wore a press shirt and brought a binder stuffed with documents. Denise sat beside him. A few neighbors nodded at them. Most avoided their eyes. Gerald Whitman called the meeting to order with his usual bland smile. First item, budget for landscaping. Marcus waited until new business before standing up. "I have a statement," he said. Gerald frowned. "Mr. Reed, we're not. I have the floor," Marcus said firmly. His voice carried across the room. "You fined me $50,000 for building a structure to protect my property. I have evidence that your drainage system is faulty, that you've ignored my maintenance requests for years, and that other homeowners have unapproved structures without fines." He opened his binder and laid out photos on the table. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. He caught Linda Carver's eyes widening as she saw her own shed among the photos. Gerald's jaw tightened. "This is not the time or place." "It's exactly the time and place," Marcus shot back. "You're singling me out, and I'm not tearing down the dam." Silence fell. Then, from the back, a voice said, "He's right." Another, "We've all seen the flooding. A third, why is he the only one fined? Gerald's face went red. Meeting adjourned, he barked. He slammed his gavel and stormed out. The crowd buzzed like a hive. Outside, Marcus and Denise walked to their truck. A young black couple caught up with them. "We're with you," the man said quietly. "This is wrong." Marcus thanked them, feeling the tension in his chest ease just a fraction. For the first time, he wasn't alone. But as they drove home, a new email pinged on Marcus's phone. Subject line, "Notice of legal action." The body was short. "Failure to comply with HOA directives will result in a lien against your property." Marcus read it aloud. Denise gripped the will tighter. "They're not backing down," she said. "No," Marcus murmured. He stared out the window at the darkening sky. "But neither am I." He didn't know it yet. But the storm gathering wasn't just in the clouds. It was about to break over the entire neighborhood and wash more than one reputation away. The next morning, Marcus woke up to the sound of a diesel engine idling outside his house. He peeked through the blinds. A white pickup with a county seal was parked at the curb. Two men in reflective vests were walking the property line, pointing at the creek and jotting notes on a tablet. Denise came into the room, still in her scrubs. "What now?" she asked, voice heavy with exhaustion. "They're back," Marcus said. "More inspections." He threw on jeans and a hoodie and went outside. "Morning," he called. "Can I help you?" One of the men, a young inspector with a baseball cap under his helmet, said, "Sir, we're with County Water Management. Just evaluating the impact of your structure on downstream flow." Marcus crossed his arms. "This is the third visit in a week. Who's requesting these inspections?" The older inspector looked away. "We're just doing our job, sir." Marcus bit back his anger. "Well, you can see for yourself. No flooding here. Water's under control." They took more photos and left without further comment. As the truck rolled away, Marcus saw Gerald Whitman standing at the corner, arms folded, watching. The man didn't even hide it anymore. He was orchestrating this. Later that day, Marcus's lawyer Alicia called. "They filed notice with the county to remove the dam," she said. "They're arguing it's a hazard." Marcus's stomach tightened. "It's saving my home." "I know. That's why we're filing an injunction today. But listen, Marcus, they're trying to paint you as reckless. They're going to say you're endangering other residents." Marcus's voice dropped. "What about the other unapproved structures? I've included them in the filing. If they push, we'll subpoena records. This isn't just a dam case. It's discrimination." He exhaled slowly. "Good, because I'm not giving them an inch." 2 nights later, someone spray-painted "Rule Breaker" on Marcus's mailbox. Denise found it when she came home from work. She stood frozen on the sidewalk, groceries in her arms. Marcus came out, saw the red letters dripping like blood. His stomach turned. He walked up, touched the paint, smelled the chemical tang. Denise's voice trembled. "You think Gerald did this?" "Gerald's too clean to hold a spray can," Marcus muttered. "But someone wants to scare us." He grabbed a rag and cleaner from the garage, scrubbing hard until his knuckles turned white. Denise tried to help, but he waved her off. Inside, Maya, home from college for the weekend, watched them through the window. "They're targeting us," she whispered. Marcus came in, his hands streaked with paint. "Go back upstairs, baby," he said softly. But inside, his anger burned hotter than the chemical smell on his skin. That Sunday was the annual neighborhood cookout. Marcus and Denise debated skipping it, but Alicia had advised them to be visible, not invisible. So they went. The air smelled of charcoal and grilled meat. Kids played tag on the greenway. Marcus felt dozens of eyes on him as they walked up. Some nodded politely, others turned away. At the food table, Linda Carver approached. Her smile was brittle. "Marcus," she said, "I wish you'd reconsider that dam. It's dangerous." Marcus forced a polite tone. "It's protecting my family, and probably yours too." Her smile faltered. "You're making this about race." "It became about race the moment your board fined me, and not the others," he said quietly. She blinked, then stepped back. "I just don't want anyone hurt." "Then tell your board to fix the drainage," he said, turning away. Later, A thunderstorm rolled in, sending everyone scattering. Marcus and Denise walked home under a gray sky. As they reached their porch, a certified letter was waiting. Marcus opened it with damp fingers. Notice of emergency hearing. The Oakwood Lane HOA will hold an emergency session to vote on legal action against Marcus Reed for noncompliance. Attendance mandatory. Denise exhaled sharply. They're calling a trial. Marcus stared at the paper. Good. I'll be there. The hearing took place 3 days later in the same community center as before, but the atmosphere was different. Tense. Almost electric. Folding chairs were packed. People whispered in corners. Local news had even sent a reporter after Marcus's Facebook video went semi-viral. Gerald sat at the front with the board, papers neatly stacked. He rapped his gavel. We're here to address Mr. Reed's continued violation of our covenants. Marcus rose. With my attorney present, he added. Alicia stood beside him, legal pad in hand. Calm but watchful, Gerald launched into a speech about community safety and rule enforcement. When he finished, Alicia stood. Mr. Whitman, she said evenly, we have evidence of selective enforcement, photographs, dates, and records of maintenance requests ignored for years. You've singled out Mr. Reed for a structure that's protecting his home, while allowing similar or larger violations by others. She held up blown-up photos of Linda's shed, another neighbor's unapproved deck, a third's unauthorized fence. Gasps rippled through the room. Linda looked down at her lap. Gerald's face stayed red, but his voice was clipped. This is irrelevant. Those matters are separate. No, Alicia said. They're the same. This board's actions are discriminatory. Marcus's voice rose. You ignored me for years because you thought I'd stay quiet. I'm not quiet anymore. People murmured. Someone clapped. Gerald slammed his gavel. Order. Order. Alicia handed over a copy of the injunction she'd filed with the county. Mr. Reed is protected under state homeowner laws. Any lien or fine you impose without due process will be challenged in court. Gerald's hand trembled slightly as he read the paper. We'll, adjourn to deliberate. He and the board disappeared into a back room. The crowd buzzed like a hornet's nest. 20 minutes later, they returned. Gerald's jaw was tight. The board upholds the fine. We will proceed with a lien if the structure is not removed within 10 days. Alicia's eyebrows shot up. So be it. We'll see you in court. Marcus stood tall, though his stomach churned. I'm not tearing it down, he said. From the back of the room, a voice shouted, This is wrong. Another, Let the man keep his dam. The room erupted. Gerald banged his gavel, but the sound was swallowed by voices. Marcus and Denise walked out flanked by neighbors who now openly supported them. Outside, cameras flashed. A local TV reporter called out, Mr. Reed, what's your next move? Marcus turned to the camera. Rain drizzled on his face, but his voice was steady. We're fighting, not just for us, for every homeowner bullied by their hoe. This is about fairness. That night, the storm intensified. Wind howled around the house. Marcus lay awake listening to the creek's roar. He got up, put on boots, and went outside with a flashlight. The dam held strong, water pushing but controlled. Beyond it, downstream yards were filling fast. He could hear sirens somewhere in the distance. A dog barked. The air smelled of wet earth and ozone. He thought of Gerald asleep in his dry house, never once thanking the dam that was slowing the flood. He raised his phone and filmed the rushing water, narrating, This is what they're trying to tear down. This is what's protecting all of us. Inside, Denise waited at the door. Come in, she said softly. You'll catch pneumonia. He looked back at the dam one more time, lit by his flashlight like a stone spine in the dark. If they win, he murmured, this whole place goes under. He had no idea how soon that prophecy would come true. The storms didn't let up. For 3 days, rain hammered Oakwood Lane like a drumbeat. Streets turned into shallow rivers. Storm drains gurgled and overflowed. News alerts blared about historic rainfall and flash flood warnings. Marcus barely left the house except to check the dam. Each time, he filmed the water level, posted updates online. His videos were now being shared beyond the neighborhood. Regional news stations, homeowner rights groups, Even a few national outlets had picked up the story. HOA finds black man $50,000 for DIY dam, while neighborhood floods. Comments poured in from strangers across the country. Some offered donations. Others shared their own HOA horror stories. Hashtags popped up. #let Marcus keep his thumb. Denise scrolled through the feed late one night. "Look at this," she said, handing him her phone. "They're calling you a hero." Marcus shook his head. "I'm just trying to keep our basement dry." "Doesn't matter," she said softly. "People see themselves in this." But the board wasn't backing down. On the 5th day of rain, Marcus received a thick envelope from a law firm representing the HOA. Inside, a formal notice of intent to place a lien on his property. Alicia called as soon as she read the scanned copy. "They're doubling down," she said. "But this is good. It strengthens our discrimination claim. No judge is going to like this." Marcus stared out the window at the gray sheets of rain. "I'm scared, Alicia, not of the lien. Of what happens if they actually force me to take the dam down. This creek is angry. Hold the line," she said. "We're filing for an emergency hearing tomorrow. I'll get a judge to block them." That night, around 11:30, Marcus woke to the sound of pounding on the front door. He grabbed his phone, heart racing. Denise sat up. "Who is it?" He crept downstairs, peered through the peephole. 2 men in reflective rain jackets stood on the porch, county insignia on their shoulders. He opened the door a crack. "Yes, Mr. Reed?" One asked. "We have an emergency order to inspect and possibly remove the structure tonight." Marcus blinked. "At midnight? In a storm? Safety issue." The man said flatly, "We've been authorized by the HOA." Marcus's blood ran cold. "Authorized? By who?" "The board president." "We have paperwork." Marcus snatched the papers. Rain blurred the ink, but he saw Gerald Whitman's signature at the bottom. "This is a civil matter," he snapped. "You have no right to touch my property without a court order. Get off my porch." The men exchanged glances. One said quietly, "Sir, we're just doing our job, but honestly, call your lawyer. This isn't normal." They turned and left, rain lashing their jackets. Marcus shut the door and locked it, chest heaving. Denise came down. "What was that?" "They tried to take it down tonight," Marcus said. His voice shook with fury. "They're desperate." The next morning, Alicia filed an emergency petition with the county court. By afternoon, a judge issued a temporary restraining order preventing the HOA from altering or removing the dam until a full hearing could be held. When Marcus read the order, he felt a wave of relief. "They can't touch it," he said, showing Denise. "For now," she replied. Meanwhile, public opinion was swinging hard. Local TV stations camped outside the community center. Reporters tried to interview Gerald, who ducked into his car without comment. The hashtag #LetMarcusKeepHisThumb trended on Twitter. A popular Black empowerment podcast called Marcus Live, letting him tell his story to thousands of listeners. On air, Marcus spoke slowly but firmly. "This isn't just about me. It's about how systems use rules to crush people who don't fit their image. If I were a white homeowner with the same dam, we wouldn't be here." The host replied, "You're not just protecting your home, Marcus. You're holding back a flood of injustice." Inside Oakwood Lane, the tension was palpable. Some neighbors left baked goods on Marcus's porch, little gestures of solidarity. Others glared at him when he walked by. The spray-painted mailbox had been scrubbed clean, but the memory lingered. Maya, home for spring break, filmed her father checking the dam and posted it on TikTok. The clip went viral. Marcus in boots, rain pouring down, his voice steady. "This is what they're trying to destroy." Millions watched. Then, on the 7th night of rain, the creek roared louder than ever. Marcus woke at 3 a.m. to a deep, rolling sound like thunder, but lower. He bolted upright, heart hammering. Denise was already at the window. "Marcus," she whispered. "Look." He ran to the back door. The creek had swelled beyond anything he'd seen. Water churned brown and fast, logs and debris slamming against the dam. It held, but just barely. Beyond it, downstream yards were already submerged, lights flickering in flooded basements. He grabbed his boots. "I have to check it." Denise grabbed his arm. Don't you dare. I have to, he said, voice cracking. If it fails, she let go, tears in her eyes. Be careful. He splashed through ankle-deep water to the edge. The dam's top stones were slick but solid. He shone his flashlight across the rushing water. The structure vibrated under the pressure, but held firm, like a clenched jaw. He pulled out his phone, filming again. Seventh night of rain, he narrated, breathless. Dams holding, downstream flooding bad. This is why it matters. Then his flashlight beam caught movement across the creek. Two figures in raincoats near the far bank, crouched by the water. One held something metallic, glinting under the light. Hey, Marcus shouted. What are you doing? The figures froze, then bolted toward the street. Marcus's heart pounded. Were they trying to sabotage the dam? He fumbled for his phone, dialing 911 with shaking fingers. 911. What's your emergency? This is Marcus Reed at 184 Oakwood Lane. Someone's tampering with my property, my dam, during a flood. Officers on the way, the dispatcher said. He stood there, soaked, adrenaline surging. His mind replayed the glint of metal. Maybe a crowbar, maybe nothing. But he knew Gerald's board was desperate. Would they stoop this low? Police arrived within minutes, lights flashing in the rain. Marcus led them to the creek, explaining. They searched but found no one. An officer took his statement. Could be kids, he said, unconvinced. Could be, Marcus replied, jaw tight. Or could be the board trying to create a hazard they can blame me for. The officer shrugged. We'll patrol the area tonight. As they left, Marcus stood alone in the rain. The dam loomed behind him like a sentinel. He felt both proud and terrified. Back inside, Denise wrapped him in a towel. This is getting dangerous, she whispered. I know, he said, but we're past the point of no return. He stared out at the dam through the glass door. It stood between them and disaster. Not just water, but something deeper. A system that wanted him to break. He thought of his father's words again. Keep receipts. He had them. He also had something else now. Witnesses. The world was watching. The next morning, the county announced mandatory evacuations for some low-lying areas of Oakwood Lane. News helicopters buzzed overhead. The HOA sent out a mass email blaming unauthorized alterations to the creek for the flooding, without naming Marcus. But everyone knew. Alicia called, voice urgent. Marcus, this is it. They're trying to scapegoat you for the flood. We need to be proactive. I've got video of two people tampering last night, he said. Send it to me. We're going to court tomorrow. Emergency hearing. He felt a surge of grim determination. Good, because I'm done playing defense. That night, as more rain hammered the roof, Marcus sat at the kitchen table, phone in one hand, mug of cold coffee in the other. Maya scrolled through comments on her laptop. Dad, she said quietly, people are organizing a protest outside the HOA office tomorrow. Like, a real one. News crews, signs, everything. He blinked. For me? For us, she said. He smiled faintly. Then let them come. He looked out at the dark shape of the dam. It wasn't just stone anymore. It was a line in the sand. And tomorrow, the fight would move from the creek to the courthouse. By dawn, Oakwood Lane was no longer a street but a waterway. Cars sat half submerged. Lawns became ponds. Neighbors sloshed through waist-deep water carrying boxes and pets. Helicopters thundered overhead, their spotlights sweeping across the flooded cul-de-sacs. Marcus stood on his porch in boots, holding a thermos of coffee, watching the chaos. The dam still held, a black silhouette against the surging water, but downstream looked like a war zone. Denise came up behind him. The news says evacuations are mandatory. We're on higher ground, he said. We're safe. She touched his arm. For now. But this is no way to live, he exhaled. I know. That's why today matters. At 9 a.m., Alicia arrived in a rented SUV loaded with case files. She splashed up the walkway, rain dripping from her coat. You ready? She asked, stepping inside. Marcus nodded. More than ready. Good, she said. Because we're not just arguing about a dam anymore. We're arguing about retaliation and discrimination under the Fair Housing Act. I've filed a counterclaim. Denise raised an eyebrow. Counterclaim? Alicia smiled tightly. If we win, the HOA won't just have to drop the fines. They'll have to pay damages. Marcus's jaw tightened. Good. The courthouse was packed. Reporters lined the steps, cameras rolling as Marcus, Denise, Alicia, and Maya walked up. Protesters held signs. Let him keep his dam and stop flooding justice. Some chanted his name. Inside, the air buzzed with tension. The HOA's attorney, a tall man in an expensive suit, sat at one table, surrounded by board members, including Gerald Whitman, who avoided Marcus's eyes. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair, called the room to order. We're here on Reed v. Oakwood Homeowners Association, she said. Plaintiff seeks an injunction to remove an unauthorized structure. Defendant counters with allegations of discrimination and retaliation. We'll hear opening arguments. The HOA attorney stood first. Your Honor, this is simple. The defendant built a large, unauthorized barrier on common land without approval. This barrier has altered the natural flow of water, resulting in catastrophic flooding downstream. The HOA has a duty to enforce its covenants and protect the community. Alicia rose slowly, measured. Your Honor, what's catastrophic here is the hypocrisy. For decades, Oakwood Lane has allowed white homeowners to build fences, sheds, even small retaining walls along the same creek without incident. My client, a black homeowner, built a modest dam to protect his property. Not only did the HOA fine him an unprecedented $50,000, but they attempted to forcibly remove the structure during a flood. This is not about safety. It's about discrimination. The judge's eyes flicked from one attorney to the other. We'll hear evidence. Marcus took the stand first. He spoke quietly but firmly, recounting everything. The flooding, the fines, the late-night inspection, the figures by the creek. Alicia showed photos of other creekside alterations, none of which had been fined. Did you ever receive a formal engineering report stating your dam was unsafe? Alicia asked. No, Marcus said. Just threats. Did you offer to work with the HOA? Multiple times. They ignored me. Alicia displayed a video of the two rain-coated figures Marcus had caught on his flashlight. Do you recognize these individuals? She asked. I can't see their faces, he said. But they weren't neighbors I recognized. They were on the HOA's side of the creek. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Then it was Gerald Whitman's turn. The HOA president walked stiffly to the stand. The attorney asked leading questions about community standards and flood risk. Gerald repeated phrases like unauthorized and liability. When Alicia cross-examined, her tone sharpened. Mr. Whitman, can you tell the court how many white homeowners have built retaining walls along that creek? I don't have that number. More than zero? Possibly. And how many have been fined $50,000? He hesitated. None. Thank you, Alicia said. During a recess, Marcus sat in the hallway sipping water. Protesters outside chanted faintly through the windows. Maya scrolled through Twitter, showing him updates. Dad, people are comparing this to Flint, to Katrina. You're trending again. He rubbed his forehead. I didn't want any of this, but you did, she said gently. Not the attention, the fight. He gave her a small, tired smile. Maybe, back in court, Alicia called a civil engineer as an expert witness. He testified that Marcus's dam had actually slowed water flow and likely reduced flooding downstream. The problem, he said, pointing to a map, is poor maintenance of the HOA's own drainage systems. The judge's eyebrows rose. Is that documented? Yes, Your Honor. County reports show repeated warnings about clogged culverts. The HOA attorney tried to object, but the judge overruled him. By late afternoon, closing arguments began. The HOA attorney spoke of rules and precedent. Alicia spoke of fairness and safety. She ended with, Your Honor, my client is not a rebel. He is a father and a neighbor who did what the HOA failed to do. Protect this community. And for that, he's being punished. The judge said she'd issue a ruling within 48 hours. Outside, the crowd erupted as Marcus and Alicia emerged. Reporters shouted questions. Microphones thrust forward. Marcus held up his hands. I just want to say thank you, he told the cameras. This isn't over, but we've been heard. Denise hugged him. You were amazing, she whispered. He looked at her, exhausted but alive. We'll see what the judge says. That night, Oakwood Lane glowed with TV trucks and flashing lights. Neighbors waded through floodwater carrying lanterns. Helicopters still circled overhead. Marcus sat at his kitchen table, staring at the dam through the dark window. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Take it down or it'll come down tonight. He stared at the message, throat dry. He showed it to Denise. Her face went pale. Who? I don't know, he said. But they're scared. He turned off the phone and looked back at the dam. It stood solid, water surging against it like a living thing. They're coming for it, he murmured. In the distance, thunder rolled. Not from the storm, but from a crowd gathering at the HOA office for the protest. Maya opened the window to hear it. Dad, listen. He listened. Hundreds of voices chanting, signs bobbing, flashbulbs popping. The world was watching. He took a deep breath. Tomorrow changes everything, he said. The rain came harder overnight, drumming the roof like war drums. At 3 a.m., Marcus lay awake, listening to the rush of the creek beyond the window. The text still burned on his phone. Take it down or it'll come down tonight. Beside him, Denise stirred. You're not sleeping. They're going to do something, he whispered. I can feel it. Then we call the sheriff, she said. I did. They said they'd keep an eye out. He snorted softly. We both know what that means. Maya appeared in the doorway, hair tied back, eyes wide. Dad, the dam. Something's happening. Marcus grabbed his boots and ran outside. The air was cold and thick with mist. Floodlights from news trucks painted everything in stark white. At the creek's edge, figures moved, dark shapes against the rain, tugging at ropes and equipment. Hey, Marcus shouted, his voice cracking. Get away from there. One of the figures swung a crowbar against the dam's steel gate with a clang that echoed through the trees. Another hurled a chain over the top, trying to pull loose a plank. Maya fumbled with her phone. I'm calling 911. Marcus charged toward the bank. Stop. That's dangerous. Alicia's SUV screeched up at that moment, headlights cutting through the rain. She jumped out, holding up her phone to record. I've got you on video, she yelled at the saboteurs. This is destruction of property. The figures froze, then bolted into the trees, their flashlights bobbing like fireflies. One slipped in the mud, but scrambled up and disappeared. Marcus reached the dam, chest heaving. He ran his hands along the structure. It was still intact, but one of the steel braces hung bent, water squirting through like a punctured artery. Marcus, Alicia called. We need to leave. It's not safe. He looked at the surging water. If that brace gives way, another crack of thunder. The creek roared louder, higher. By dawn, helicopters hovered overhead again, news anchors shouting into cameras. The judge's ruling was due at 10 a.m., but the creek didn't care about clocks. Marcus stood at the edge of his yard, soaked and shivering, as county engineers inspected the dam. One knelt beside the bent brace. It's holding for now, he said. But if the water rises another foot, we'll lose it, Marcus asked. We'll lose everything downstream, the engineer replied grimly. Alicia pulled Marcus aside. We need to get to court. The ruling. I'm not leaving, Marcus said. You have to, she insisted. This is your case. He glanced back at the dam. This is my home. At 9:45 a.m., the courthouse was packed again. Reporters filled every seat. Alicia stood at the defense table, eyes flicking to the empty chair beside her. At precisely 10, the judge entered. We have reviewed the evidence, she said. It is the court's opinion. The doors burst open. Marcus strode in, mud on his boots, raincoat dripping. Gasps rippled through the room. He walked straight to the defense table and sat. Sorry, Your Honor, he said softly. Flooding. The judge's eyes softened briefly, then hardened. Very well. Let's proceed. She picked up her ruling. The HOA's request for an injunction is denied. The evidence shows selective enforcement and retaliation. The dam may remain. Furthermore, the HOA is ordered to reimburse Mr. Reed for fines paid and cover his legal costs. A stunned silence. Then murmurs. Then cheers from the back rows. Gerald Whitman's face went pale. Alicia gripped Marcus's arm. "We won," she whispered. "We won." Marcus exhaled a shuddering breath. Finally, but then his phone buzzed. A text from Denise. Brace broke. Water rising fast. "Come home now." He froze. "We have to go," he said, standing. The drive back was chaos. Sirens wailed. Roads flooded. Neighbors waded through waist-deep water carrying children and dogs. Helicopters circled lower now, their rotors sending ripples across the rising water. Marcus's truck splashed through puddles as he gripped the wheel. "Hold on," he muttered. They turned onto Oakwood Lane and saw it. The dam. Water pouring over its edge like a silver curtain. The bent brace had snapped. A jagged gap opened near the base, gushing muddy torrents downstream. Denise stood on the porch waving frantically. "Marcus," he leapt from the truck. "Get inside." "Upstairs," he shouted. "We can't just watch." Mai cried. "Dad, do something." Marcus sprinted to the dam. The roar of water was deafening. Debris shot past. Branches, trash cans, even a lawn chair. He grabbed a length of chain from the ground, looped it through the broken brace, and tried to pull it tight. The chain bit into his palms. Alicia waded in beside him. "You're crazy," she yelled over the noise. "We can hold it," he shouted back. Together they braced the chain, pulling with everything they had. The steel groaned but held for a moment. Then a wave slammed into them. Alicia slipped, screaming. Marcus grabbed her arm, hauling her back to the bank. "We can't stop it," she gasped. "We have to get out." "No," he said, eyes blazing. "I built this to protect them." Another crack. The dam shuddered. Sirens wailed closer. A county rescue team arrived, men in orange vests shouting through megaphones. "Get away from the structure. It's going to blow." Marcus staggered back, chest heaving. Denise was on the porch, clutching Maya. Neighbors gathered, watching. The dam gave a final groan, like an animal dying. Then it split, water exploding through in a thunderous roar. A wall of muddy floodwater surged downstream, sweeping fences, cars, and sheds with it. But upstream, around Marcus's house and several neighbors, the water dropped, settling back into the creek's banks. The breach had released the pressure. The neighborhood was safe. Marcus dropped to his knees in the mud, trembling. Alicia crouched beside him, soaked, her phone still recording. "You just saved them," she said. He shook his head. "I tried to save everyone." Rescue teams rushed past them, shouting into radios. Helicopters circled lower. The smell of mud and gasoline filled the air. Denise ran to Marcus, pulling him into her arms. Maya clung to them both. "You're okay," Denise whispered. "You're okay." Marcus stared at the shattered dam. "It's gone," he murmured. "But they're alive." That night, the water receded. Neighbors lit candles in their windows. News crews broadcast live from the ruined dam. Headlines scrolled across the bottom of TV screens. Ho loses court cases, flooding hits Oakwood, and black homeowner wins, saves community. Marcus sat on his porch, wrapped in a blanket. Alicia handed him a cup of tea. "You're a hero," she said softly. "I'm tired," he replied. "But you're still standing," she said. He watched the dark creek glinting under the moon. "It's not over," he murmured. Alicia tilted her head. "What do you mean?" He looked at her, eyes heavy but clear. "Now we rebuild." Morning came with a strange quiet. No more sirens, no more helicopters, just the slow dripping of water from trees and rooftops, like a giant clock ticking over a battered neighborhood. Marcus stepped out onto the porch barefoot. The mud felt cold and sticky between his toes. The dam was gone, just a jagged scar of earth and splintered wood where it had stood. The creek, though, was back in its banks, flowing calmly as if nothing had happened. Denise joined him, a blanket over her shoulders. "It's like it was never there," she said softly. Marcus shook his head. It's like we were never here. Across the street, neighbors carried waterlogged furniture out of their houses. Some waved at Marcus. A few walked over, hesitating before they spoke. You saved us, one woman said, her voice trembling. We saw it on the news. You saved us. Marcus just nodded. I tried. By mid-morning, the county had set up a temporary shelter at the community center. FEMA trucks rolled in. National media crews broadcast live from Oakwood Lane. The smell of wet wood, gasoline, and bleach hung in the air. Marcus sat at a folding table inside the shelter while Alicia scrolled through her laptop. The judge's ruling is already making headlines, she said. It's on CNN, MSNBC, everywhere. He glanced at her screen. A headline read, Black homeowner wins landmark HOA case, then saves neighborhood. Denise joined them, handing out bottled water. They're calling you a hero. Marcus gave a humorless laugh. Hero without a dam. You still have your dignity, Alicia said. And a legal precedent. Outside, protesters and supporters had gathered in a muddy field near the HOA office. Signs bobbed. Hold the HOA accountable. And rebuild the dam. A few carried banners with Marcus's face printed on them. He found it surreal. Maya filmed on her phone, narrating for her followers. We're here in Oakwood where my dad's dam saved dozens of homes but was destroyed in the flood. Marcus gently lowered her phone. Sweetheart, maybe give it a rest. I'm just telling the truth, she said. People need to know. They will, he said quietly. But right now I'm tired. Inside the HOA office, Gerald Whitman stared out the window at the crowd. His hands trembled as he tried to write an email. Several board members had resigned overnight. Angry homeowners had flooded their inboxes, demanding explanations. When a reporter cornered him outside, Gerald muttered, no comment, and pushed past. That afternoon, Marcus and Alicia sat with a FEMA representative, a young Latina named Sophia, who smelled faintly of coffee and rain. She explained the process for disaster relief. We can cover some of the structural loss, she said, but because the dam was technically an unapproved structure, reimbursement is tricky. Marcus rubbed his temples. So I'm on my own. Not entirely, Sophia said. Given the circumstances, there's a good chance of a special grant. And you have a lot of public support. Alicia leaned forward. We'll file whatever we need. He's not losing another penny. When they returned home, someone had left a cardboard box on the porch. Inside were envelopes, dozens of them. Marcus opened one and found a check for $50, another for $200, another for $1,000, all with notes like, thank you for saving our home, and we stand with you. Denise picked up a note, eyes misting. They're donating to help you rebuild. Marcus held a handful of envelopes. I didn't ask for this. No, she said softly, but you earned it. That evening, a local pastor organized a community meeting at the church hall. The room was packed. Neighbors, volunteers, reporters. Marcus sat in the front row while the pastor spoke. We've been through a trial, the pastor said, his voice echoing. But sometimes God puts someone in our path to stand in the gap. Marcus Reed stood in the gap for Oakwood. The crowd applauded. Marcus stared at the floor, cheeks burning. Then an elderly neighbor rose. I voted for that fine, she said shakily. I thought you were breaking rules. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Marcus looked up. Thank you, he said simply. Alicia took the microphone next. We're exploring a class action, she announced. The HOA's mismanagement caused this disaster. If you were harmed, come see me after this meeting. Murmurs of agreement swept the room. Several people stood to clap. Maya whispered to Marcus, it's like you're leading a movement. He shook his head. I'm just a man who built a dam. Later, in the quiet of their kitchen, Marcus and Denise sipped tea. The house smelled of wet earth and candle wax. Outside, the creek gurgled softly. You know, she said, we could sell. Move somewhere dry. Start over. He stared at his cup. And let them win? She touched his hand. It's not about winning. It's about peace. He looked up at her. Peace doesn't come by running. It comes by standing. Maya came in, holding her phone. Dad, You're on the front page of Reddit, and someone started a GoFundMe. It's already at $45,000. Marcus blinked. What? They're calling it Rebuild the Dam, she said. Literally. He laughed softly. Rebuild the dam. Denise smiled faintly. Looks like you have your answer. That night, Marcus stood at the edge of the creek, moonlight glinting on the water. The dam was gone, but he could still see its shape in his mind. The stones, the boards, the steel braces. He closed his eyes and listened, not just to the creek, but to the distant hum of voices in the community center, the buzz of phones, the rhythm of people rising after a storm. He whispered, "We're still here." In the distance, thunder rumbled, not a storm this time, but the sound of trucks arriving with sandbags and lumber, volunteers stepping out, ready to work, neighbors talking to one another instead of hiding behind HOA rules. For the first time in months, Marcus felt a flicker of something like hope. He turned toward the house. Denise stood in the doorway, holding a flashlight. "You coming in?" "Yeah," he said. "I'm coming." He took one last look at the creek. Tomorrow would bring lawyers, insurance adjusters, more cameras. But tonight, there was quiet, and in that quiet, a promise of something new. Morning light poured through the blinds of Marcus's modest home, casting soft stripes across the kitchen table. The coffee in his mug steamed lazily, but Marcus hardly touched it. After months of tension, legal battles, and headlines, the neighborhood flood had shifted everything. Now came the reckoning.